Hi, welcome to Jeremy Pryor's podcast, or what I like to call Jeremy Pryor Unfiltered. I'm his daughter and producer, Kelsey Gall, and we are excited to bring you seasons of content all the way from Tolkien to theology, from business to family. If you like to contemplate deep philosophical ideas across a wide range of topics, you've come to the right place. Make sure you give us a follow so you don't miss out on future episodes.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Here with my partner in crime, Steve Manuel. Steven, thanks for jumping in here today.
What a joy. It's a leisurely joy to be here.
It's never leisurely having a conversation with Steven about especially topics like this. We can at least start that way. You got a basketball in your background.
Let's start casual and then we'll work our way into a froth.
That's right. Yes, we get frothy, especially when we're trying to figure out what the heck's going on with the church. So there's this collision that I'm constantly trying to understand. And I first met Steven because everyone told me, oh, that's what Steven cares about, which is like, what is this collision between the way we do church and disciple making, And so this is like, if somebody were just to say, what's the conversation that we should all be talking about? Like, I talk a lot about family, a lot of things, but this is one that just gets me maybe the most. I'm like more astonished the more I think about this one than any. And so I'm always trying to understand it. I'm like, I'm always got experiments going, trying to fix it in my own little context. And I know Steven does too. So I found myself getting worked up about this particular element of that conversation, which is celebrity Christian culture. And I remember the way that I really was wrestling through this. So a few guys fell recently that I have been following for years. And, it's not an uncommon experience to see this happen. And I remember people making the comment and hearing people, sort of talk about and have very frequently talked about the problem with celebrity culture in the church. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the alternative to that? Like, you can't just diagnose the problem. You have to like really work through the solution. Like the models we're using demand celebrity culture. And so people that are complaining about it are simultaneously funding and committed to what appears to me to be a model that demands it. And so it's like this dissonance or this basic contradiction doesn't seem to be obvious to people. So I'm like, okay, I just need to think about this. So I wrote this little essay, get us thinking about it, get me thinking about it. Like, is that inevitable? Has the Holy Spirit essentially handed us a model of church that demands celebrity culture? If so, then we have to deal with it. If not, then what the heck are we doing? So anyway, here we go. This little article is called "How to Predict If a Christian Leader Will Fall." Is anyone else tired of this story yet? A trusted Christian leader makes a difference in the lives of thousands or millions, and then the hidden double life they've lived for years or even decades is exposed. We're all shocked. This pattern repeats with such predictable frequency that I once had a Bible college professor vow to begin every class with the name of a new celebrity Christian who fell that week at every class for the entire semester. Would it surprise you to find out that he made good on that promise? Probably not. But why? Every person reading this must have a hypothesis for why this happens. If not, you're just going to run across the street or click over to the next leader and restart the timer on the bomb all over again. So I'd like to submit a hypothesis for your consideration. I call this the celebrity versus disciple-making lifestyle test. If the system the leader is a part of will make them a celebrity if they succeed, then there's a greater than 50% chance they will fall. Why? Because this system is designed to exalt a person. And Jesus had something to say about such a system. Matthew 23 says, "For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." According to Jesus, every system designed to exalt a person is doomed by design. This doesn't mean that zero Christians will become well known. It means it can't be a basic design of the system. Why? Let me ask you, Who takes a job knowing that the resources of the organization will be leveraged to make them a celebrity? In a word, narcissists, those who crave status. Systems of this kind begin by attracting the wrong kind of person and then encouraging that person the wrong kind of character. The system Jesus invested in was opposed to celebrity culture. Jesus picked a handful of guys and poured into them. Crowds would grow, but the bigger the crowds, the less sensitive Jesus' teachings became. One time, Jesus did a Q&A that whittled the crowd from 20,000 to 12. Read John chapter 6. He wasn't worried. The 12 were always his primary target. You might become well known, but many of the greatest disciple makers in history will never be well known. We leave the celebrity creation in the hands of God. As it says in 1 Peter 5:6, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time, he may exalt you. So what system can reach the world without creating celebrities? A disciple-making culture. When we work in small, slow ways in secret to take what God has imparted into our lives and give that away to a few others, we will likely live, work, and die in obscurity. No other ministry strategy has the potential to make a greater impact. It has one downside. It doesn't need anyone to become a celebrity. Celebrity and disciple-making culture are incompatible. If your system would benefit and scale with the person's celebrity, you won't create a disciple-making culture. But if your system relies on the process of disciple-making, you'll repel anyone driven to become a celebrity. How many more of these stories do we need to hear before we learn? Jesus figured out the root of this problem and how to solve it 2,000 years ago. We just need to follow him. Okay, so that was my wrestling with this. And I know you probably never thought about this problem, Stephen, but so
Yes.
just hitting you cold and out of the blue. But yes, what does that stir up for you?
I totally did not think this would be my reaction to that, because I too have an axe which too can chop down such trees of pop Christianity. I did not expect to come on here and take this role, but I believe I might be the celebrity apologist here.
Okay.
Based on that.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I think. Families that operate correctly are a disciple-making culture.
Yes.
And so you focus on a handful of little disciples, they mature, and they create a handful of little disciples who mature and then create a handful of little disciples, and ... you end up with your story that you've told of the Jewish man who has how many living descendants?
1,500, yes.
Okay. So here's my question now.
Yeah.
Do you think that great-great-grandpa is a little bit of a celebrity to 1,500 people?
Yes, I would say in that context.
Yes. So, and you've stood before crowds of hundreds of people who are quite happy to hear from you, quite excited to hear from you. That definitely happens with great-great-grandpa.
Yes.
And what he says when he opens up the Bible, everybody pulls out their pens. Do you think that possibly has any impact on great-great-grandpa's ego?
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, I'm going to put that as one little data point, that
Okay.
in his little world that
Yes.
he's created, there is something like celebrity that he will enjoy. And you and I would say, there ain't a thing in the world wrong with the system that he has just run.
Right.
It's working perfectly.
Yes.
I know somebody who mostly worked with a small group of people, but occasionally would talk to large crowds. And by the end of his life, he had trouble moving from place to place because he was so popular.
Yes.
I am speaking, of course, of Yeshua, the Messiah. And we would not say that he erred
Right.
by becoming popular. Another another. I'm as I'm thinking through your deal. Paul not only were people, I guess, waiting with bated breath to hear what he would write and say, um, but he had the audacities in 1 Corinthians 11:1 to actually say, follow me as I follow the
Directions.
example
Yeah.
of Christ." So I'm going to suggest there is an inherent danger in discipling culture. You and I could talk about the difference between pop church culture and discipling culture. Yes. I think that the temptation for celebrity exists in both, that it
Okay.
crosses into discipling culture. Don't tell anybody I said this to you, Jeremy, but I know more than a handful of people who, for you, think that you are their celebrity.
Mhm.
And I have heard many people refer to Jeremy Pryor the same way that probably Paul overheard people talking about Apollos. So, does that mean that you are doing something wrong? I don't think that's a conclusion we can come to, that some people will esteem you.
Right.
Follow Sheldon around for a couple of days and watch people, little hearts, their pupils turn into hearts when he starts talking, and people just
I
want
mean,
to
mine
hear
do.
what
So-
Sheldon has to say. There's something about celebrity in that as well. So I don't think, and I'll tell you my experience too. I've been trying to make disciples in groups of 2 and 3
yeah.
for 30 years. And if you make a mature disciple who makes mature disciples, when you meet some of those third generation people, they think you hung the moon.
Right.
And you're just like, I don't even know who you are. I just spend time with a couple of guys at a time. Have a great day. So what Jesus said that stands out to me in the verse that's in your article is that he says those who exalt themselves.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem, is those who exalt themselves. And anyways, so that's an opening salvo.
Yes.
I could
Yeah.
keep talking, but I'll throw it to you.
Yes. Oh, I think so. We're gonna. I think we need to go deep into a nuance here that I was trying to parse in the article because that actually is kind of the edge of what I'm trying to understand about this topic, and I think you're pushing me into that edge, which is really helpful. Um, so I'm trying to understand the difference between the system whereby, let's say, whether it's the grandfather or the disciple maker that has been successful for 10, 20, 30 years, they're still focused on a system of smallness even
Mhm.
after that. Like they're still focused on a handful of people. And so they're not actually their celebrity is almost an accident of the success of the multiplication. What I'm trying to understand is there a difference between that and, like, I'm a 26-year-old and I hear I can plant a church with, where all of this money is going to be poured into trying to make me well known, and the success of the ministry is really dependent on how quickly and how broadly I can become well known. And that seems to be a unique trap and so when we talk about a celebrity culture, I definitely don't want to suggest at all that that doesn't mean that celebrities aren't an inevitable part of any culture. That's why I said in the article, like this can't be that you're not well known. That's impossible. The question to me, I'm trying to understand, and are there systems that are designed to create celebrities, and there's systems that will create celebrities sort of, inevitably, but the actual celebrity creation is not a basic part of what makes that system go. So, if I disciple people, and now there's 10,000 people that are being discipled, and I'm still now focused on three guys. And when I'm walking, I'm in public, people might know who I am because my primary focus is not a platform with spotlights and trying to build up my own celebrity. And I've sort of now graduated out of this disciple making process into this bigger world where I'm sort of untouchable, and that there's a distance between me and everyone else. But no, how I got to success, and what I'm doing on day one in year 20 is still the same activity. And yeah, that's going to inevitably mean people are going to know who I am. But
Yeah.
that's, I'm trying to parse out with that. I mean, to your point though, you could still at that point become an ego driven person at year 20, it's not like, oh, yay, I don't, but is there a difference between that and basically signing up for a system that says, okay, if I'm not a celebrity in 5 years, 10 years, I've sort of I've sort of made a mistake. Like this can't, that's almost defines success, if that makes sense.
Yes. Um, yes. What I hear that is so clear to me, and every conversation I'm having recently goes back to this theme. But what I'm hearing you say is, if in youth, for the sake of uh, popular attraction, we throw the young, good-looking, charismatic guy up front,
Yes.
and we say we must falsely make him in an empty, fleshly way. We must make him famous and attractional so that we can grow our thing.
Yes.
There is a danger in that, so craven that nobody gets out alive. And the most dangerous person, if it's could ever be the case that a future senior pastor who's watching this and you've got your eyes on that, I have this great warning for you, which is, what would it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul in the process? There's the danger of celebrity in general. Let's just talk about celebrity in general, is that it is the feeling of esteem without having earned it through your actions.
Yeah.
So the way that God's system is supposed to work is that we esteem those gray heads around us who, through a life of faithfulness and sacrifice, they've earned the esteem that we give them. Now, in the examples that we're giving of wholesome examples of what we're calling celebrity, you were famous, if you will, with 3 guys. If you've made disciples, you know the look in a guy's eye when he comes to you with the new job offer that he's just been given, and he believes that you and you alone can give him the wisdom of how he is to handle the new job offer. That's because you have proven yourself to be selfless, wise, level-headed with him, and with one person, you have this status of celebrity. I have experienced that before. It is very good to undercut that as often and soon as possible, and just go, I'm just trying to follow Jesus, and I'm trying to help you follow Jesus. That's it.
Yeah.
Then, okay, you some people don't pass that test. You can pass that test, then your group is going to grow to 10. And 10 is a different deal. When 10 guys get together and you join them and they go, well, let's see what Bob has to say. Finally, Bob is here. He'll settle that. There is a level of ego draw in that moment that I've been on stage. I had a career as a musician for a minute. I've been on stage in front of thousands of people, and I'm telling you that the rush of cheering, getting cheers for you in front of thousands of people, isn't the same as being around 10 guys who say, let's see what this guy has to say, and looking in their eyeballs and feeling their difference. Okay, I'm just confessing that's part of the system. ... 1,500 descendants. And can you handle that thing? I think each one of those is a test for us to pass as a leader, which is, do you have the John the Baptist look? This is one of the great secrets of the whole deal, is that he would say, some people thought he was the most important spiritual character on the landscape, certainly before he, introduced and then gave way to here. Now, here he is, everyone, the Ram of God, or Lamb of God, we usually say. But he said, he must increase and I must decrease. And that was so obviously the hallmark of his discipleship that all of his disciples shrug their shoulders and go, okay, if you say we're done with you, we go follow him. Then they dropped John like a bad habit. They followed Jesus. So I think that, I'm sorry, long answer, but to me, what we're really looking at here is that church leaders, get ready for this bomb, what a brainwave this is, are supposed to be, drum roll, elders, guys who have proven themselves. You're not supposed to have a 26-year-old running a religious organization. That's not a wise move. Old guys who have proven themselves and meet the 1 Timothy 3, Titus 1 requirements for eldership, those are your leaders. Those are your leaders. That's why we're told repeatedly that's who these guys have to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I think the reason why I want to be really careful about the way that we're describing um, the sort of the model itself is that I think that for a lot of, let's say you are a 26-year-old person who just wants to, you want to give your life to Jesus in the most radical way. You want to serve him. You really aren't yet, necessarily ego driven. But if you're handed a model that says, okay, well, this is how you do it. Like, you are attractive. You are a great speaker. Like, we need you to be a celebrity, sort of like, and so you're forced into a system in which you're constantly needing to exalt yourself. And the system is designed to exalt you in every artificial, using every kind of marketing means we possibly can get our hands on. And we've created that system. So you're going to have certain people who are attracted to it. I think because of issues they're wrestling with in their own character. But then you're going to even have people, I think, who really are well intentioned. And this is where the disciple making, this is why I'm trying to understand this contrast, because I think that part of what creates an elder is that you have primarily focused on the small things, and you've seen those small things grow exponentially because of the faithfulness of what you've had to build into the lives and character of those. Because part of what you're wrestling with, especially at that really slow speed when you're a father, you're a parent, you're working with your children, and you desperately want to see in them character, and you've got 18, 20, 25 years that you're slowly developing that character. It's difficult to give in to some of those ego stroking sort of temptations, knowing that you're going to be modeling that directly and imparting that directly to your children. I saw this in my own fatherhood. I think that a lot of the times when alarm bells went off for me as a father, like is just anytime I started to use any of those kinds of self focused sort of like, oh, this is going to make me feel better or make me look better. I could look in the eyes of my children and I could tell it was injuring them for me to use those things. And I'm like, oh, why would I do? So it's in the context of the small, in the context of the very close relationship. Part of what I noticed about like some of these, I think part of what maybe triggered me in just reading about some of these men who have recently fallen is when people were describing how insular they were in their own personal lives. Yeah. Nobody really knew them. Yeah. Their houses were off limits. There was, and so you're propping up this person. They look great on video, or they look great on a stage, and they're not. They've really left the path of having close, intimate relationships with small groups of people, and then seeing if that character formation is going to transmit to another generation and to another generation, and to see, oh man, I'm seeding into these people, some of the same character flaws that I haven't really fully dealt with in my own life. And then you go back and you repent and work through that. And so when you see this pattern, it seems odd to me that we're not pointing it out, that we're not pointing out that when you create a system where someone's rewarded for being very insular with their privacy, and they've said, I'm sorry, guys, you have to understand, I'm in a place as a celebrity. I mean, you know what it's like to be me and have people, know my name and like interrupt me on the street. And so you just got to let me, nobody can come over to my house. Nobody can really know what's going on. Nobody can watch my relation with my kids and my wife. I'm past that. I've been past that for decades, I'm like, how could that not cause problems? How could that,
Absolutely.
Paul never got there. Jesus never got there. It was the opposite. Jesus and
Yes.
Paul, as well known as they were, their lives were very transparent to the people that were directly following them.
Yes.
That seems like it's at the root of this. This is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. I think that one of the if you find yourself in this position, you've got to find yourself a crew that has they can't benefit from you in any way.
Hmm.
And you're just a peer with all of these people. Sometimes you to try to be around people for whom there are no stars in their eyes, for you. Yeah, if and you're a leader in your field, whether that's a religious field or an author or whatever, you might have to go find other people who are leaders in their field. And just I've got to collect other leaders to be around. And then I just have to get gut naked honest about what my life is like. And we have to be able to confess sins, actual sins.
Yeah.
A sin like I kind of got an ego stroke over a compliment that I received yesterday. I just want to tell somebody that you might pray for me because I could feel my flesh rising up as a result of that thing. And you and I have been in situations where you confess a sin to a young guy, and there are still stars in his eyes. He's like, "Well, that's okay. No problem, man." I'm thinking, okay, that wasn't helpful. I need to be with somebody who's not impressed with me.
Right.
I tell you my story, and then you go, that is offensive to God, and you're forgiven, and let me pray for you. Like great, deal with me like a person. So it is absolute necessity that you would be not impressive just a total peer with some people. And
Let me-
as you say, if
yeah.
you're a 27-year-old that somebody wants to exalt as a senior leader, you'll never have that in your world.
Yeah. Do you feel like, Stephen, and this is a question I've really wrestled with. Is the model to gather around you peers or fathers? In other words, like I wonder if the point was always generational, and
Mm.
that when you have a father over you, they are almost like under impressed with you. Peers you can still snow in some way, or there's still
Yeah.
a pecking order. But I think one of the things that one of the things I'm being really wrestling with about kind of the peer culture that we have about friendships, and it seems like in scripture there was such a value for the kind of intergenerational connections between people. And if I had to pick between having a father or fathers in my life that were not impressed with me, and who saw me as not just equal but as literally under, like, oh, Jeremy, that's so nice. I remember when I was 50 and I struggled with that. Like, I
Yeah.
find that very helpful.
Yeah.
Is that
I
an
think you're right.
alternative? Okay.
I changed my vote. I'll vote for fathers as well.
Okay.
One of the things that came to mind when in thinking about this subject is the phrase from Romans 13 is that everyone must be in subjection to authorities.
Yes.
And when you find yourself a celebrity in any situation, you are not subject to authorities in your little world, whatever that little world is.
Yeah.
And you must find a place to make yourself subject to authorities, or you are in grave danger. Red lights blinking on your dashboard.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever considered starting a family business so you can spend more time working as a family team? We've started a year-long coaching program called Family Inc., where you get weekly coaching with Jeremy, access to our video training for launching family businesses, and lots of ideas for businesses to start that are working for other family teams. Head over to familyteams.com and click Family Inc. to learn more, or to set up a strategy call with Jeremy to see if this might be a good fit for you.
Man. Yeah. That process of understanding, okay, we need to experience what it's like to submit when we disagree. We need to experience what it's like to know that platform could be taken away from us at any point, if we're abusing it, or if we think we're stewarding it properly. But those we've trusted that have more experience and wisdom than we do, are concerned and feel like, hey, you got to take a break from this. It's not This is not healthy. But I think the equation that I'm really, really troubled by is the equation that would suggest that to make a kingdom impact, we need to make celebrities.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing that I'm really taking issue with. I really think that 95% of Christians today in the West, 95% of you guys listening to this right now are currently funding and currently following a system that is based on that. And I'm telling you guys, do not be shocked if that is propping up people to fail. And that you don't have to be doing that. That's not the only system. There are systems that are really built around really knowing people, about making disciples, and the fruit is through multiplication and not through celebrity. That's what I'm saying. Those are opposed to each other as systems. And that doesn't mean, to Stephen's point, that multiplication isn't going to result in being well known, or having to endure the challenges of celebrity. It's not dependent on that. It's not like you could. There's a way that you could remain obscure and hidden in a multiplication culture. Now, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should let people know who you are. That's okay. Again, it's that grandfather should do his best to be known by those 1,500 descendants. But that grandfather, what he built is actually not dependent on his level of celebrity status.
Right.
As the systems we're building, we build them from the ground up to be dependent on those things. And then you are attracting men and women into these systems that are at very vulnerable seasons of their life, submitting to a system that is going to incite in them these really challenging character flaws, that are often going to create this dual life. And I think I don't know what your thoughts are about this, but what I find always so troubling when this stuff comes out is when you find out about a Christian celebrity who's fallen, and then you start to hear the story about how long they lived a double life. And then you actually go back into, wait a minute, how many sermons did they preach while they were in this adulterous relationship?
Yes.
How many times did they stand on a stage?
Yes.
Why didn't they resign?
Yes.
Everyone scratches their head, and then all the people, especially anyone who got saved during their season of adultery or found themselves, growing through and under their teaching, the level of destruction that has in the lives of a young disciple. And so I just asked myself, what kind of system would be created in which, when somebody begins to have a moral failure, their reaction is to split their life in two and see how long they can play this out. What is up with
demonic one? Is that the answer? Yeah. And as you say, the pattern is that you made a deal with the devil. You didn't know that, but you did in your youth. And the deal was, I will pretend to be mature and to have it together. And as you say, there's this split that happens between the public you and the private you, and you put a lid on private you as long as possible. And the pattern is that late in life, when you can't keep everything going just right, then there's leaks that start springing. Yes. And as you say, there's 40 years of damage that's done, because everything that you've touched, everything that came out of your mouth had the taint of your split life, when we're called to have these lives of integrity, which are about humility, which are about taking the low place. And I really like your admonition to people, if you are serving this kind of culture, if you are donating to this kind of culture to keep that thing going, please stop. It's not good for you. It's not good for the guy who's at the top of the anthill. Yeah. It's not good for any of the up and comers who are being moved up that ladder of that machine. The whole thing stinks because it's not based on the actual fruit of a life of disciple making, as you say.
Right. And that, I think it's maybe shocking for some people to hear us say this, but I think that, just wait. Just wait till you've seen enough of these failures, Like at
Right.
some point, you have to say there's, a system is perfectly designed to give you the results you're getting.
Yeah.
And we have a system perfectly designed to cause people to live a double life. And so you're seeing fruit now, yes, but how do you know how much of that fruit is going to be, weaponized against the kingdom once
Oh,
that double life is exposed? And so why not, and this is why I guess I'm playing around with, the alternatives here, really trying to emphasize, a huge part of the culture that we've been advocating is you make your household an outpost of disciple making. And what we mean by that is that whatever fruit is happening in your house with your relation with your wife or your husband and your relationship with your children, that is the extent to which you can make disciples and you can bear fruit in the kingdom. Those two things have to be totally in sync. And if you're finding that your children are in rebellion or frustrated or like it's not okay to say, well, I'm just going to like do ministry over here and then just sort of like no longer invite people over to dinner because they might see that the emperor has no clothes. And so let's keep that, let's keep our, and so I wonder where this double life begins. I mean, it's like, what if we just said in the kingdom, there's a culture, and this is really what I think the New Testament is advocating for. There's a culture where you invite people into your homes and they see the fruit of your lifestyle, and that's going to be positive and negative, and that your ability to actually impact people is going to be limited or accentuated by the fruit in that house. And if my household is falling apart or I'm in really stressful seasons and I'm making all kinds of compromises that's hurting my kids, that's hurting my wife, that's hurting my finances, like I owe the people that are being discipled by me some level of transparency into that because they're they're trying to pattern their life. Like you said, Paul, follow me as I follow Christ. Well,
yep.
let me see, Jeremy, like, is this working out for you? That doesn't seem to be, I mean, I have people say that, they're like, I've had people who are very close to me. Sometimes they'll notice something I'm struggling with and it's not, the fruit's not great. And they're like, Jeremy, the fruit, it's not great in that area. And I'm like, I always try to say immediately, like, please pay attention to that. Like, there are areas of my
Mhm.
life that aren't that I'm struggling with. I don't claim to have it all together. What I want to do is live a transparent enough life so that you can see the positive and negative, and that you
Yes.
can decide what to follow, knowing
Yeah.
that it's always going to be mixed, but it's always going to be one. It can't be two things. I can't like,
Yes.
but I get on a stage and you have no idea what I'm doing at home. You have no
Yes.
idea what my kids are struggling through. You have no idea
Yes.
if my wife is at home just angry with me all the time and thinking, rolling her eyes, like, can't believe these people are still like, believe this, like, it's like you got to live one life.
Yeah. I think the chickens come home to roost, as we might say down south, for people in any, we are constantly being told to be influencers, to get out there and I don't know, make people think what you think, even if you
Right.
have, well, I got a great cooking tip. Well, be sure everybody knows your great cooking tip. And there is an element where yes, we want to influence people. We want
Right.
to be like Festus. Almost you persuade me. Good. I want to persuade you.
Yeah.
However, in so much as we are lights to the world and we are told that we're supposed to hold out truth to the world, as you say, what happens in our most private life, in our family life, either underlines or invalidates what we would have to say out in public. And I think the great lesson of the warning of celebrity people and these people falling from celebrity is I better keep it honest, close to the ground
Right.
with regards to my wife, my children, how I am with my friends. I mean,
Yes.
I I've been, as I said, I've been around low level celebrities for a long time. I remember being at like a conference and a well known speaker, somebody that was trucked in, wouldn't put his name up there, well known speaker, get off the stage. And we've done music for this thing. And we're backstage, guy, filthiest language you've ever heard. And we're looking at each
Mm.
other across the room going, what is happening here? How and suddenly we feel like we have been like endorsing a lie by being on stage with this clown who I wouldn't follow across the street. His whole life is a disaster. and he's telling us about his kids, and we're just going, oh my word, but oh boy, can he really put it on stage? And for each of us, even as our low level celebrities and whatever, I'm maybe you can influence 5 people.
Right.
You better put your attention close to the ground. How is it with me and the Lord? How is it with me and the family?
Yes.
That's what matters.
Yes. Well, I think what has kind of alarmed me even more is that what we have felt like we've had to agree with from a church model perspective, in that, okay, I guess 1% of us have to take the hit and become celebrities in these church structures. Now we're telling that to everybody. Exert as much influence on social media as you possibly can.
Right.
Like everybody can have a platform now. And so now everybody is being tempted in the same way, to basically emphasize the public persona over the private reality. And I think that, again, Jesus already solved this problem. He solved it. He was incredibly famous, and it's fascinating the way he dealt with it. There's a pattern in the Gospels, which is the more famous Jesus became, he would do 2 things. That one is that he would be even more adamant to focus on the small band of guys who were around him. And 2, when he got in front of the crowds, his teaching got harsher and more, sharper, in order to really whittle down the crowd. I mean, Luke 14, I think, is another example of where he hit kind of a pinnacle
Yep.
of popularity. And that's when he says, he's literally walking, says he turns to the crowds and says, if anyone does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple if he does not, take up his cross and follow. Like the most offensive thing you could, and then it says he turns around and walks away. He says something that no pastor would ever say without explaining it. Like, hate your father. What the heck are you talking about? But what Jesus was clearly trying to drive an incredible sharp wedge into that crowd through this language he was using.
Yeah.
Anyway, this intuition of go smaller and go, and if you're in a more public situation, become sort of less attractional because you've already got more influence than you can possibly
handle. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea that you're going to crank it up more, and you're going to soften your message so that you can, this is what I'm wrestling with is that I feel like Jesus already solved this problem, and we need to, and it seems like Paul had a similar way of handling, like, how he would, when he was in front of crowds, towards the end of Acts. I mean, yeah, he was just incredibly blunt, because why do I need more celebrity? Why am I protecting, that in some way, or afraid that I'm going to get canceled? Like, all these guys got canceled by the end of their life because they were cranking that volume up because they had already achieved way more notoriety than they needed to make disciples. Is that that's kind of what I've noticed is happening in these models.
Yeah, they both seem to be saying with their language, if you came to see a sideshow, I will offend you as soon as possible and get you removed. If you're one of these people who's pressing in, this is Jesus speaking to them in parables, so that, hearing they wouldn't hear and seeing they wouldn't see. If you came to see something, not only am I not giving you that, I'm going to offend you as soon as possible to get you removed from the scene. And those people who are pressing in and like they want me, even if I say something that sounds nonsensical, they're going to stare at me. They're going to wonder. They're going to talk about it. And they're not going anywhere. I love that. To me, that one of the chiefest throwdowns of his life, you referenced John 6, is in this. So you want to follow a celebrity, huh? Talk after telling everybody, now you'll have to break all Jewish laws and drink blood if you want to follow me. And then he turns to his disciples and goes, are you guys interested in leaving too? You want to leave too?
Yeah.
And they're like, haven't we been with you the whole time? What are you talking about? And certainly their status rose as his status rose.
Yes.
Everybody knows they're the insider guys. This happened when they went to Caiaphas's house on the night of the crucifixion. Oh, are you one of his disciples too? Like you're one of his posse, right?
Yeah.
And so Jesus kind of turns on all of them, goes, maybe you would like to end what you're doing because I'm clearly not going to be, if anybody had celebrity eyeballs, stars in their eyes, I'm not doing that.
Mm.
So don't you love him for it? I mean, this
Yeah.
is his version of taking the low place, right? It's another version of him
Yes.
going out
Hmm.
into the wilderness alone.
Yes. Yeah. The idea that the bigger your platform is, the more cowardly you would become is inverted, right? So the bigger your platform is, the more courageous, the less you have to lose. But only if you are primarily relying on those smaller arenas or the actual transformation that you're trying to create can you have the courage to do that. If you're primarily focused on the large arena to do the transformation,
Yeah.
then it's going to be very difficult for you to sacrifice the 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 size, the reputation, of that you've developed. And so that's I think that maybe is where I'm landing, and this is what I'm really trying to understand. This is why I really do think there is a and maybe celebrity versus discipleship culture or lifestyle isn't the perfect way to say it. You know, it could be that attractional, or there's the word there, celebrity could be, I want to be nuanced enough to say, yeah, it has to do with a system of like the public large space is what you're protecting and your primary arena of transformation, as opposed to that's the place where I whittle them down to the private and the discipleship, the transformational arena. And because I'm
Yeah.
focused there, I'm never afraid of what I'm saying publicly.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, the worst that could happen is the 20,000 walk away, but the 12, they get it, they see it, they trust, they understand. You're not going to lose that connection because of something you say publicly.
Right.
People know you privately. Like, I know his kids, I know his wife, I've been to his house, I've seen how he lives. He's the real deal. Like,
Yeah.
you know, those are the people that you should be concerned about. The fact that you said something that, you know, somebody who didn't know you is offended by and frustrated by, that, you know, welcome to the club. That's, you know, the New Testament is just full of that. That's the whole point of having that may be the point of having a large platform, is so that you
Yeah.
can say those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have to throw this out on this in this discussion, that I know the people that get into that position, they understand in their brain, the way that their math works, if it goes well for me, it goes well for the gospel. And if I am become honored and received and liked, ugh, then God also gets received and liked. It's a terrible. It creates that separation, the dual lives that you discussed. But we haven't mentioned this concept before, but it should be true for all of us. It has to be part of the disciple making culture, which is there has to be an explicit, agreed upon death to the fear of man. So Proverbs says that the fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. And so if you can be on stage in front of 1,000 people the way that Jesus could, deliver God's word in a way that cuts right to people's hearts, the way that Peter did, and not have the fear of man on you.
Yes.
I'm neither here to win people's approval, nor am I here to show how tough I am that I offended everybody.
Right.
I always like a quote from Georgia O'Keeffe, a Southwestern artist, and she said, "Let man's insults and his praise go down the same drain." I think that speaks very well to the fear of man. And
Yes.
we have to have this attitude that I want the Lord pleased.
Mm.
And if everybody else, if my public doesn't like my Instagram, but the Lord is pleased, so be it. And by
Yeah.
the way, the Lord being pleased is probably an analog for those people that know me the best. I get a best sense of what the Lord really thinks of me
Yes.
by the people that know me the best.
It seems like it'd be good to like overtly state look, guys, I care about what God thinks. I care about what my wife thinks. I care about what my children think. I care about what these fathers in my life that know me and see me think. I care about the people that are in my house that understand and that I'm discipling and that see the full picture. And that's it. Like, so I've got this very small group of people. And so if I've got like these 10 to 15 people that are, I'm constantly listening to, I'm open to, I'm humble before, I'm repenting to. And so what they think matters to me.
Yeah.
But if I say something that gets 10,000 people upset, like, then I look at the 15 and I'm like, are we okay? Did I say anything? Because sometimes, I need to be corrected. Okay. They're like, yes,
Yeah.
that was too far, or no, like that, of course, that's part of the deal. So, so I think we need to be very overt about these two realms, the private realm and who's in that bucket, and the public realm, and to understand that. And so what we've done is inverted the two. We will sacrifice the public realm, the private realm, to build our public platform. And I think that we're supposed to, and what we've seen modeled in the New Testament is the decision to sacrifice the public platform and make sure that we're keeping the private, the primary one. So, yeah.
That's right. Excellent.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Stephen, for processing this with me.
You
I
bet.
needed to think this through, and that was really helpful.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Jeremy Pryor's podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any future content. Follow Jeremy on Twitter and Instagram, as well as his Substack blog, all linked in the description. See you next time.